You're tuned in to Oilers Nation every day with Tyler Yaremchuk, live every weekday on the Nation Network YouTube.
The Oilers win 3 of 4 on the homestand. The Oilers are 6-2 in their last 8. Something good might be brewing, just as our boy Rusty predicted. This could be a good December in Edmonton. Let's get into it with the lead. The lead, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Soho. Check them out, sohoyeg.com. If you're sitting downtown and you're like, hey, I need a good lunch deal. Boom, $9 lunch special at Soho. If you're sitting around tonight, you're going, hey, I want to go watch the Oilers take on the Minnesota Wild at a spot with great atmosphere. Boom, Soho Yeg, $8 for a pint and a slice during Oilers games. Also specials on Canadian and Coors and half-price wings. It does not get any better than that. Shout out to our friends at Soho. The lead today, it was a big Friday night for the Edmonton Oilers, a performance that I would argue was their best of the season. They're going to have to repeat it tonight as they take on Minnesota in Minnesota. We'll get to that with our Sherwood Ford Giant game day a little bit later on. But for now, let's focus on that big dub on Friday. Like I said, in my opinion, their most impressive performance, or one of their most impressive performances of the entire season. If you look just at sort of the basic boxcars of that game, you'd be like, maybe it was a little bit underwhelming for the Oilers. They did get outshot. Minnesota popping home north of 40 shots in total. That was impressive. They did get most of them, though, or a good chunk of them, on the power play or shorthanded when it wasn't 5-on-5. At 5-on-5, the Oilers were without a doubt the better hockey team in that game. They outshot the Minnesota Wild 32-23. The scoring chances were 27-22. The high danger looks were 14-10, according to Natural Stat Trick. And the number that was the most important, 5-on-5 goals were 2-1 in favor of the Oilers, and they got scoring from areas of their lineup that they maybe haven't been getting a lot of scoring from. As always, I want your take on it. We are live on the Nation Network YouTube. I see the chat is popping off already. Like I said, it's a loaded show because not only do we have a Sherwood Ford Giant game day, but Bruce Kurlock is going to be around. He is the newest writer to join the staff here at Oilers Nation, going to be handling some Condors prospect stuff as well. He is a great follow on Twitter. He's going to be stopping by to chat a little Condors as well. But before that, I'm going to bring in my guy, Liam, who is down at Nation HQ. I am out in the Sports Closet studio. Liam, Friday night, big dub. What'd you think?
Yeah, I kind of just echo what you said. I thought the Oilers actually put together one of the better performances of the season, and the fact they were able to kind of continue this little hot streak now. What is it? 5 of the last 7 they have wins in, like looking to make it 6 tonight. Like it's starting to look like this team is kind of forming a bit more of an identity and able to get some fluidity through the team, and like guys who, the lower end guys like Klim Kostin, for example, like stepping up and like having good games again. Derek Ryan grabbed another goal. Like finally, like we're seeing everything we've been clamoring for the first like 25 games of the season. Like now it's finally coming together and they're on a bit of a roll here.
What's our light goal today? Because I know this has a couple different angles to it.
So I made the light goal 56, and it has 2 reasons. One, obviously, Kyler Yamamoto grabbed his first goal of the season. So that's big. And it's also the amount of years I've been waiting for England to win a World Cup. And unfortunately, that ended again on Saturday. So hopefully 60 will be the year for England. I've been waiting a long time.
You yourself have not been waiting 56 years because you were not that old, but spiritually,
they make me feel like it.
Yeah, and I felt for you. I mean, that second penalty kick, it felt like it was going to be one of those like historic moments. The chat is kind of giving it to you. Kylie was worried you weren't going to be here today, but I'm happy to see you're, you got a bit of a smile on. You're putting on a brave face for us, and I appreciate that.
Well, being an England fan is not easy. So the best part about it was the family members who were around saying, well, maybe next year, when this tournament comes around every 4 years. So it was a couple of drinks and a few bananas got away the pain somewhat. So
The light goal today is 56, folks. That is what we are gunning for, and we are almost halfway there already at 27. So if you're watching on the Nation Network YouTube, hammer that like button for us. If you're watching on Facebook, hit the star button as well. You got some questions in the chat, which I will get to. But first, three big things from the win on Friday night, courtesy of our friends at Cornerstone Insurance, Edmonton's premier insurance boutique. For insurance coverage, check them out, cornerstoneins.ca. Commercial, home, and auto, they do it all. The first big thing from that win, that performance was the perfect balance of stars and depth. Early in the game, Derek Ryan finds the back of the net. Call him Derek McDavid. He's up to 4 goals on the season. It was a great play by Klim Kostin to keep the chances going. But the other thing I loved was the shift right before that, Liam, where it was the third line, Puljujarvi and Holloway and company, really grinding away on the Wild, getting a couple of chances in the offensive zone. That momentum, boom. That led to that fourth line getting some good looks and eventually scoring the first goal of the game. McDavid on the power play, Draisaitl on the power play. Yes, great. That power play is a weapon for you. Let it do its thing. I've always said you can have a great power play. It's not a problem. People who say, oh, you only win because of your power play. I don't love that line, but that game on Friday showed how dangerous you can be when it's the elite power play working with some good depth scoring, because we also had the Kyler Yamamoto goal, which I'll touch on in a second. But out of your 4 goals that weren't the empty netter, yeah, your Stars got 2 of them on the power play. And guess what? It was kind of bottom 9, bottom 6 pieces, guys who weren't giving you a lot of offense early in the year doing the rest. My first big thing, the balance of depth and stars.
Yeah, I think we've kind of spoke about this when guys have come up into the team, is just having a positive influence on the game. And we know not everyone's going to score like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl do. Like, it's obviously very obvious. But if you can go out there and kind of wear the other team down a little bit and just put some positive reinforcement on the ice, and it helps massively. And yeah, like, I really don't care who's scoring the goals as long as they're going in and the Oilers are coming away with 2 points.
Yeah, and they certainly did that. The second big thing, the man between the pipes, Stuart Skinner, with another solid performance. He stops 42 of 44 shots. Yes, I said it was impressive. The Oilers held them to just 23 at 5-on-5. That is crazy. On the special team side of things, Skinner was unbelievable. His save percentage on the season, as you can see on the graphic, is now .919. His goals against average is still sub 3. He is 9-6 on the year. That was the third time in his last 4 games that Skinner had a .909 or better save percentage. He was lights out in that hockey game. And again, the team in front of him played well, but he was very, very good and a big reason why they won.
He's a big reason why they've been able to win most games this season, to be
yeah.
honest. Like, the Oilers kind of didn't bail him out. He bailed out the Oilers on Monday somewhat. I guess obviously they didn't win, but he was the only reason he was reasonably close in the game. And now they finally give him a bit of run support to do it. I think it was actually Lowtide today on his show was saying 67% of the time Stuart Skinner's played is like how many times he's won a game. I guess you could say I worded that terribly, but I'm sure people understand what I mean. But like, he's giving you the best chance to win every single night. And I don't care how much Jack Campbell's making. Stuart Skinner is a starter on this team until proven otherwise.
And yes, for those of you asking in the chat, Stu is getting the start again this evening. So Skinner is going to get another chance to continue his solid start to the season. The third big thing I noticed came from the wee man, Kyler Yamamoto, finding the back of the net. Yeah, you know what? Was that a little lucky? You deflect it in the slot. It takes a wild bounce off the ice, goes in, sure. But we're not going to call it luck when it comes to Kyler Yamamoto. We're going to say he's finally getting the bounces because this man was snake bit for so long. It feels like it's been like a calendar year of Kyler Yamamoto being snake bit, and to see him finally find the back of the net was great. It came at a big moment for the team as well, which was huge. And hopefully he can start to build this forward because Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is on an absolute heater right now. And if you can get Yamamoto starting to produce a little bit at 5-on-5, Liam, there might not be a reason to split up 29 and 97, at least in the short term, if 56 and 93 can keep the offense rolling.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, the reason we were hoping, not hoping, but Draisaitl and McDavid wouldn't play together is because nobody else was really jiving at the time. But now you have that extra depth kind of coming through and people are scoring, which gives the Oilers the ultimate advantage of having the 2 best players in the league on the same line. So that's what you want. Like, Nugent-Hopkins is driving that line now, and like people have said like, oh, he can't drive a line himself. It's like, well, it's a lot different playing on the third line when you have to much more responsibility than playing on the second line where you're trying to drive more offense. So I'm loving it right now. Like that third line, like we mentioned too, like had a good game. So like finally kind of getting some contributions from more people. And if maybe this is Yamo's time. Like he's a streaky scorer both ways, right? Like he'll go on runs where he won't get anything for a while, then he'll go on runs where everything's hitting the back of the net. So hopefully this is kind of the start of that trend for him too.
Breaking news. I know a bunch of you were wondering if the Oilers were going to put in a claim for Eli Tolvanen out in Nashville. This just came down on the wire that the Seattle Kraken actually scooped him up. I'm not 100% sure what the waiver order right now in the season is based on, because there's a point where it flips from last year's standings to this year's or something confusing like that. But regardless, I think Seattle's getting a pretty decent player here in Tolvanen. It's a guy who over the course of his very short career, or young career, he's only 23, he scores 15 goals every 82 games. That's the pace he plays at. For $1.45 million, 23 years old, that ain't too bad. So Tolvanen is going to Seattle. The Oilers did not get him. I'm not totally stunned by that. I think they kind of, yes, a Puljujarvi is their Eli Tolvanen in a way. And I know that might sound a little bit weird, but I think that's a great pickup for Seattle to get some extra scoring. No complaints there. Tolvanen, good player, good contract. Nashville, I don't know what they're doing. They don't score very much. They only have 67 goals on the year. So why you would get rid of a 23-year-old who does have a history of scoring double digits doesn't make sense to me. But you do you, Nashville Predators. Riley says the waiver order did switch. We had a chance to pick him up. I don't know. I get it. He's a good player. But one, it's $1.45 million, so he's above that threshold where, like, if it wasn't going well, you'd have to send him down. The Oilers could, if once everyone's healthy, the Oilers won't be able to afford to keep Matthias Janmark on the roster again, right? Like, you got to remember those issues are still going to be bubbling up for the Oilers once they start to get guys back in the lineup. So I'm not stunned that they passed on a guy who's only making $1.4 million, but at the same time, I'm acknowledging Seattle's getting a good player, and yeah, it wasn't a perfect fit for the Oilers. That's where I'll leave that. We do have a Sherwood Ford Giant game day that we are going to get to in just a bit here, but our guest today is a new teammate of ours at Oilers Nation. You know him on Twitter at @BKurlock. He covers the Condors very well. His insights are tremendous. Excited to welcome into Oilers Nation every day, Bruce Kurlock. Bruce, first piece went up yesterday. Happy to have you on board at Oilers Nation, man.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Quite an honor to be a part of the team, and I certainly appreciate being here today.
Let's chat a little Bakersfield Condors. Evaluating an AHL team for me, because I only do it at a very surface level, is always tough because it's like, okay, you want them to, be getting wins and be competitive and start to build up a winning environment. But at the same time, that can't be the number one priority for the team on that level. Are you a little bit concerned about the way things are going in Bakersfield?
Well, yes. The short answer to that is yes. There's a couple of caveats for it. I mean, first, we don't know what instructions or what license Colin Chalk has to operate down there. So perhaps there is directives coming from Edmonton Oilers management that are managing this. So if you leave that aside, when an AHL team is owned by an NHL team, it's very specific why they own them. They own them for prospect development, period, full stop. And as those who follow me on Twitter no doubt know, I've been in a couple of battles with Bakersfield fans who I understand their aspirations to want a winning team, which, by the way, they don't have one right now. But my point simply is that, this is an AHL team owned by an NHL team, and it's really all about prospect development. And what we're not seeing right now, if you look at someone like a Carter Savoy, you're not seeing a player play more than maybe 8 minutes a night. You're not seeing players like Tulio a little more routine now and Phil more routine now, but we're getting healthy scratched at the start of the year. And none of that makes sense if your primary focus is to develop your prospects. For sure, you want to protect them. But I mean, some of the decisions that we've seen, year to date down there don't look like anything related to that, and look more related to a coach focused on winning.
Yeah, and that's the tough part too, because I follow your tweets all the time, and I see the stuff about Carter Savoy, who his first couple of games from just the boxcars, it looked like he was playing pretty well. What do you make of him when he is playing? Like, is it a thing where he is playing well, just for some reason not getting the minutes? Does he just need more pro experience? What do you make of Savoy's game?
So, and you would know him as well as I do from your days following Sherwood Park. He's not an easy prospect, in my opinion, to develop or coach, right? He has a couple of skills, one in particular that is absolutely, without a doubt, an NHL skill. That said, he has a tendency to play on the periphery to some degree. He's not a play driver. He's not going to make a physical he's not going to make his presence known with physicality. I think he understands his game really well, and I think he understands that he needs to be in space, and I think he needs, that he needs the opportunity to get a shot off. And I think that's hard for coaches. Like even last year at the University of Denver, you could see his head coach struggle with him and would often single him out and move him down to the second line, even though he was scoring. And I think the hope is that you would develop this player that was more complete. And I just don't think that's him. I think he's he's going to be a complementary player who's a scorer. I think when he does get a chance, it's interesting. There was a couple of times in the last two games where he's had the opportunity to play with Philp and Bourgault. And you can see a little more jump in his game. You can see that those players understand where he's going to be. And you can just see a little bit more creativity in his game there. What do I think? Look, he's a lower round pick for a reason. He's got some things to work on. He's got to get stronger. I don't mind his skating. I think his skating is fine. I think he needs to be more intense, which, is an odd thing for me to say given what I've just said. But I do think that he actually could help himself by being a little more robust on this forecheck, because he can get to the puck and he has great hands. And, to create an opportunity for himself by getting the puck, giving it to somebody, and then getting into his space. I think it's just time for him. I think he needs to play 10, probably 12 minutes a night. He needs to play power play time, and you just let him go, and mistakes will happen. And so what? That's the game with prospects.
And I like what you said earlier. Like, it's not like it's a winning team anyways. So if you're going to be middle of the pack or below the middle of the pack, at least give your prospects a chance to show their stuff and put them in situations where they can succeed. And you mentioned that, maybe Noah Philp is a guy who's starting to get some more responsibility. I watched him a ton at the University of Alberta. Man, this guy is so tantalizing as a prospect because he's got the size. He's got this good offensive instinct. What have you made of the strides Philp's made early in his Condors career?
So he came to me relatively like a blank canvas. I didn't know a lot about him. So my first introduction to him was really at the prospect tournament in Penticton that I was out at. And I would say, Savoy had a chance and then got injured. But I would say the forward group, I think he was the second best forward out there behind Holloway, which is saying something, right? Because Bourgault had a really good tournament. A couple of other players had, Reed Schaefer had a good tournament as a junior, but Philp was really strong. And what I had heard about him was his skating was an issue, or there was challenges in his skating. And I don't see that at all. And I don't know if that's a function of whether he has worked on that. But I see a stride that is, his boots are never going to be fantastic, but I see a stride that is pretty strong, pretty long. Skates come back to center real quick. He operates with the two-stride crossover well. He shoots the puck hard. Like, his shot is incredibly heavy. He's got a great release. And I have a tendency to agree with you. Like, I think his offensive instincts are pretty good. Like, to me, I sit there and watch. I tweeted out a really bad video, like, AHL production isn't always the greatest. But I mean, 6'3", right-hand shot center, wins a face-off. Benson taps it over, and Darren Kill scores. I'm like, man, Oilers could use right-hand shot centers all day long, and here's a guy right there ready for him.
Yeah, and I love that too, because it just seems like he could fit so perfectly in this Oilers lineup one day, giving them kind of everything they're missing in their bottom six. You mentioned the right shot, but they could use some size. They obviously need more scoring in their bottom six. And I'm not saying call up Philp and it's solved now, but it's just so intriguing to see him start to take on a bigger role down in Bakersfield. I want to touch on a couple of other players before I let you go. And if we could flash up the top 5 scorers here on the Condors, both these names are going to be here. Let's start with Xavier Bourgault, though. 8 goals in 23 games. What a start to his pro career. I'll ask you sort of the generic question of how close is this guy to NHL ready?
So, I get asked that a bunch. I mean, I think the short answer is that he has NHL skills, and I just think it would be best for him if he stayed the season down there. Now, is he starting to score and play at a pace that you would be tempted towards the trade deadline to see what you have? Sure. But again, he does get overwhelmed a little bit physically. His skating is good for sure. But it's not, it's not fantastic. So, I mean, a whole year down there, just seasoning, learning how to play in a man's league against men, how to protect, and how to, just create space for himself, I think would be best. I can understand the draw to bring him up, especially when you see the right side and how little it scores. But to me, I would keep him down there. I mean, he's been exactly as advertised. He's an offensive wizard. Somebody in that top. I compare him all the time to Jordan Eberle. He looks like Jordan Eberle to me. Reminds me of Jordan Eberle. Somebody's going to love playing with him at center in that top 6 in Edmonton.
Yeah, one of those pieces where, I mean, maybe guys like Bourgault and Holloway, and this is a bit of an aside, but when we're talking about potentially moving the first-round pick at the deadline for immediate help, I think it's easier if you're Ken Holland to sit there, gulp, and say, I'm moving my first-rounder this year because Bourgault and Holloway should both be pieces that are coming up, and there seems to be a decent little wave of high-end talent coming through the system, or in Holloway's case, that's already here. One guy who maybe casual fans wouldn't know a lot about is the guy who's third on this list, Michael Kesselring. Same amount of goals as Xavier Bourgault. And oh, by the way, he's a defenseman who's 6'4". And we talk about things that this Oilers team might love, and a 6'4" D-man who can move the puck. That would be up there. What's allowed him to kind of burst up this year and quadruple his goal output already from last year?
Well, to be fair, he's probably on the heater of all heaters, although his shooting percentage is not out of the realm of normalcy for another player. For him, it is obviously, but I say all the time, he's a coach's kid, right? He is a coach's kid, and sometimes that can be a vice, but in his case, I think it's a virtue. Like, I've watched him for a number of years now, and every year he comes in, and whether it's the team has given him something to work on, or whether he is working on it with his dad or whatnot, but first it was his skating, and then, it was some of his puck skills. And now this year, it's really, it's a combination of things. He's obviously scoring. Again, he's just super confident with the puck right now. And I think a big piece to that is his lateral mobility for a guy, you said 6'4". I think he's even listed as 6'5" in the AHL guide. Like, you watch him walk the blue line, it's impressive for a man of that size. And then the other piece, which, he was always more of a offensive or less focused on the physical side of the game, and that has changed this year. Like, he is absolutely intent on being hard to play against. There's been a couple of occasions where I've actually looked at tape and said, wow, he's trying to hurt people. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but I mean, like, physically leave a mark on a guy so that the next time that guy comes down his side, the guy thinks about just chipping it in. And, it's all really come together for him. And, for a team that talked, or, we heard these snippets about Vincent Desharnais and maybe having a look. I'd be really, really curious. I feel bad for Vincent, like a couple of bad breaks with injuries, but boy, I tell you, this kid brings that same size, not obviously as much physical or defensive prowess, perhaps, but man, he moves the puck, he skates with it, he makes a good outlet pass. Boy, I'll tell you, there's a bottom pairing defenseman there, I think, which is a testament, given, I think, if I remember right, he's a 6th round draft pick in 2018, if I remember right.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's wild to see the way he's taken some steps forward, and hopefully the Oilers have a bit of a gem in Michael Kesselring. Bruce, this was fantastic, man. I love kind of just ripping through the roster here and going through a bunch of names. This is not going to be the last time we do this, so look forward to having you on the show again soon.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
There you go. That is Bruce Kurlock. You can find him on Twitter at @BKurlock. All the Condor stuff you need. Drops in some Oilers takes too, and all of that stuff. He's really, really sharp, and we're excited to have him on board here at Oilers Nation. Let's move along to the Sherwood Ford Giant game day edition of the show, as Edmonton is getting set to take on the Minnesota Wild once again. As Zach Hyman said earlier today, kind of like a mini playoff series, playing them in back-to-back games, although the Wild did have a game against Vancouver wedged into there as well. Minnesota, seemingly starting to piece things together. Not a ton to get to in terms of previewing things from the Wild perspective of things, because, again, we did that on Friday, but from an Oilers perspective. I know we can start with the Minnesota lines, actually, since we got those ready to go. It's going to be a relatively similar lineup to the one we saw on Friday. Kaprizov with Steele and Zuccarello is going to be your top line. A bit of a different look in the middle six, though, as Freddie Gaudreau and Matt Boldy will stay together, but Sammy Walker is going to be on the left side of that line for the Minnesota Wild. Not a guy I'm honestly super familiar with here, but he's sliding up, got the call up. Joel Eriksson Ek, Marcus Foligno, and Jordan Greenway, the third line, at least that's how they're listed, really used more like the second line by Dean Evison. Connor Dewar with Ryan Reeves and Mason Shaw, that tough fourth line for the Wild. The D pairings, Middleton, Spurgeon, Brodin, Dumba, Merrill, Addison. Third time in like 2 weeks the Oilers are playing these guys. I think the players like Middleton, who are a little mean, right? You can go to that fourth line as well. I wouldn't be surprised if things get a little spicier here tonight. You think back to that Derek Ryan goal to start last game, and, there was pushing and shoving after that one. I think tonight could be a little bit spicy. TC, 4-1 Edmonton, Sammy Walker, first NHL goal versus the Oilers, as is tradition. Would not be the least bit surprised with that. The Oilers tonight, they are going with the exact same lineup. Through and through. It's expected to stay the same. McDavid with Draisaitl and Hyman. Connor McDavid, 13 points in his last 5 games. Ho-hum. Nothing unusual there. Nugent-Hopkins, he's got 8 points in his last 5 games. He's going to stay with Janmark and Yamamoto. James Hamblin with Holloway and Puljujarvi. I like that they're giving this line a little bit of runway here. I think they're starting to piece things together a little bit. And Devin Shore with Derek Ryan and Clem Costin. Loving Clem Costin. Another great game for him against the Wild as he picked up an assist on the Derek Ryan goal. Nurse with Ceci, Kulak with Barry, Broberg and Bouchard. Oilers need more from that Nurse and Ceci pairing tonight, and that transitions nicely into our Sherwood Ford Giant Keys to Victory as we welcome Liam back into the show. Liam, I am saying that top D pairing is a big one for the Oilers. If they want to continue to limit the Wild at 5-on-5, a big thing will be getting the puck out of their own zone efficiently, which they need Nurse and Ceci to do better, and also limiting and not having as many grade A turnovers, which Nurse, Ceci, and I'd even throw Barry into that group, they were kind of guilty of on Friday night. So the Oilers need their 3 most expensive D-men to be better, point blank, period. What is your key to the game?
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I mean, Nurse can't be doing what he did on that first goal again, obviously. So I think my other key to the game is kind of something we spoke about off the top, is just a positive performance from everyone. Like the forward group. Like if someone's coming out, just kind of do something to influence the game in a good way. Obviously, it's not going to be a perfect 60 minutes for every single player, but if you can get most guys kind of rolling right now, and I feel like there's a lot of confidence flowing through this forward group especially, then I think the Oilers should be fine. And just defend well in front of Stu, and he'll do the job there at the back too.
Yeah. What did you make of our friend Bruce Kurlock? A guy like Burgo, that's tempting, but Michael Kesselring, you're a prospect guy too, so I wanted to give you your chance to say something here. But Kesselring's a guy, like I know people in the chat were like, oh, last thing we need is like more offensive defensemen. But I'm not necessarily talking about this year. Let's talk about heading to the offseason. You want to free up some cap space, you move Tyson Barrie. If you have a guy like Kesselring waiting in the wings, 6'4", moves the puck well, like Bruce says, has some physical bite. That's a guy who I'm really intrigued to watch for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think the Condors are a really interesting team this year because there's a lot of guys who are kind of evolving into professionals for the first time. Like a lot of guys are being given roles. Like you mentioned, Savoy and Tulio is like, well, this is their first year pro. And like even Olivier Rodriguez kind of stepped into a really big role with the Condors, which is a bit unexpected this year, and he's done well. But I guess with Kesselring, or even like if any defenseman to kind of develop, like look what New Jersey was able to do with a guy like Ty Smith this year. Obviously, Ty Smith was a first-round pick, but they ended up trading him for John Marino. You know, like It's not just about like if these guys are going to play for the NHL team next year. It's about building up these prospects so that if you actually want to go out and get top players to help you, say you do want that shutdown defenseman, then you can trade one of these guys and then you can go get that NHL established defenseman too. So I think it works both ways, but I agree with a lot of the stuff he was saying about Savoy. Obviously, we've got quite a lot of history with him, watching him with Sherwood Park, and like I think there's a lot of promise in this team, and there's guys who he didn't even talk about who were still in juniors, like Reed Schaefer right now with Team Canada, and Matiev Petrov is over playing in North Bay too, and Max Warner. There's a lot of prospects in this Oilers pipeline, which gives them a lot to play with when it comes to the deadline, even just moving forward into the future with potentially playing in the copper and blue.
Yeah. Will be interesting. You guys are dropping your keys to victory in the Nation Network YouTube chat. Rusty, the Reckless Optimist, says, Nuge gonna have another 3-point night. Man, wouldn't that be something? You guys are debating if it's a good idea for maybe someone like Clean Shady to go fight Reeves. Tyson says, no fighting Reeves. Just let him run around and take penalties and generally be a pylon. I don't hate that take at all. Costin's too precious to potentially lose him in a fight to Reeves. Yeah, I totally see that as well. Dayton says limiting dumb penalties is going to be huge tonight. I agree. You gave the Wild 5 power play opportunities last game. You certainly don't want that to happen again. Sherwood Ford Giant Game Day brought to you by, as always, our friends, Sherwood Ford the Giant. They got their new mobile truck. They posted a video of it on their Twitter. You can go find it. We've been resharing it on the Nation Network. What a fantastic feature. You leave the game, truck's not starting, car's not starting. Boom, Sherwood Ford has got you all around the clock. Also, what I love about driving a Ford, I got to leave. I got to be in the office right away to do real life. I'm going to be getting in the Nation truck right after this show's done. Boom, I can start my truck from my phone. What a neat little feature. Shout out to Sherwood Ford, the Giant. Also, Sports Closet, sportscloset.ca for the hockey fan or sports fan in your life. They got everything at the Sports Closet, including some Nation gear. So if you want to order online, like I said, sportscloset.ca. Also, St. Albert Mall, Sherwood Park Mall, and Kingsway Mall. Love our friends at the Sports Closet. I might freshen up what's going on behind me right away, too. So I might be coming in Sports Closet. Let's get to our bets for today, Liam. Betway, 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Your spot if you want to lay a little coin on the old Edmonton Oilers tonight and you've identified a couple of plus money spots, let me hear it.
I'm just here to chase the juice, Tyler, and I want everyone to follow me. So tonight, we're going with a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins shot prop. Hit 3 of the last 5. You know, he's been hot. Like, we're talking about getting a 3-point night. Let's hope for a 3-shot night, and then we'll get the points to come with it, too. And, of course, if the Oilers are going to win, Connor McDavid's going to get at least 1 point. So, I mean, plus 110 seems nice for that one. And, yeah, so obviously they're on the road, and Minnesota's not an easy place to play. But I think the Oilers can make it 6 of the last 8 tonight. And, yeah, again, Connor McDavid. He's probably going to do something tonight. What did you say? 13 points in his last 5 games?
Yeah, if the Oilers are going to win, McDavid's going to be in on the action. You mentioned the Nude shot prop. I love the Hyman shot prop. He's hit it in 4 of his last 5, and it's actually paying out a little bit better at plus 115. And if you want to get a little bit more aggressive, maybe you do Oilers to win and McDavid to score 2+ points at plus 200. Maybe that ends up coming in handy for you a little bit. I might do that. I might do that and the Hyman one. Those are going to be my 2 bets tonight. Oilers to have 33+ shots on goal as well. They did it Friday against the Wild. Maybe they can do it again. So I got 3 bets for you. Also, if you want some action from around the NHL, I like the over and the Drake Batherson shot prop in Anaheim and Arizona. That's a game I'm going to be targeting a little bit. Shout out to our producer, Alex, who is a Senators fan. 19+, please play responsibly. Shout out to Betway. Tyson says Hyman is another guy. Oh, we're 3 away? 3 away. Come on, people. If you're watching on the Nation Network YouTube, we cannot wrap up the show until we get to 56 likes. So hammer the like button a couple more times, and then we can get out of here. I'll be watching it intently. We also got up over 100 viewers again. So shout out. We peaked at 104, I think, on YouTube. So great stuff there. Bruce Kurlock brings in the people.
He's a man of the people. People want to hear about these prospects. They're not people you see every night. So people want to know what the future. And the future's bright. The future's bright.
Yeah, and that's why I want to have Bruce on more often, is just because, again, like, I'm assuming most of the people in the chat are in the same boat as me, and you don't watch the Condors. You read the box scores, you watch the highlights, you watch what Ryan Holt puts out there, but it's guys like Bruce who kind of keep us in tune with what's going on down in Baco. Chemo with the prediction, McDavid scores 4 goals. I mean, probably not, but he's leading the NHL 25 in 28 games as McDavid not only looks to push to 50, I mean, he's probably going to do 50 by what? All-Star? No. But he could have 50 goals by the 60-point mark this season. I think the watch for McDavid is, can he get to 60 goals this season? Jason Robertson sitting 2 behind him as well. And there we go. We hit our 56 likes. Thank you, everybody. Another day. We should keep track of how many days in a row we've hit our like goal, Liam, and see how long we can keep that rolling.
I think it's 4 days in a row now. And we hit the big juicy one on Friday of 93. So that was awesome. Thank you for everyone doing it. Yeah, it's awesome to see. It's good to have support.
Shout out to the Sports Closet. Shout out to Sherwood Forward at the Giant, Soho Yeg, Cornerstone Insurance, and Betway. That's going to be a wrap on a Monday edition of the show. Oilers versus Wild tonight, as I punch my microphone in pure excitement at the opportunity for the Oilers to start this mini road trip with a big W. Thanks for tuning in to the show today. As always, if you missed the show, it is available as a podcast. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts from. We'll be back tomorrow, noon Mountain Time. Chat with you then. Enjoy the game tonight.